And here's what I want to ask you. What is holding you back? What is the thing that's holding you back from going after your dreams and from finding meaningful work you love? Aren't you ready to wake up to the possibilities that are in your life and go after the things you've dreamt of? It's time for you to feel alive again, lit up, and for you to know that you're deserving and you are worthy for the future that's waiting for you. I want you to feel fulfilled and find abundance in your life. I think it's time, and I'm ready to help you get started. And I'm your host, Kristin, of Building a Life You Love. And each week on the show, we're going to help you figure out how you do go after your dreams and find work you love. Here we go. Let's get started. Hi, on today's daily episode, I'm actually going to talk about using your imagination and your creativity in your life. And I think it's just so important because so many of us, as we step into adulthood and then as we go through the decades, if we aren't in jobs that we consider to be artistic or creative, like graphic designer or an artist or running an art business, many of us get so busy with our schedules that we forget about adding in, using our hands and having hobbies that allow us to try things and be creative, whether it's in the kitchen or whether it's using paints and colors or writing with a pen or on the computer. But I think when we do that, we kind of turn off a part of ourselves. We stop tapping into these resources we have within ourselves and within our minds. So today, what I want to do is encourage you and give you a couple really easy ways to start adding back in that use of your creativity and your imagination muscles. And I want to share with you this quick comment in the book Own Your Brush by Rebecca Float. She is a friend of mine, and actually I'm fortunate that I get to do an interview with her this afternoon. But as I thought about that interview, the creativity and being artistic and using her imaginations, of course, was top of mind for me. And she says this in her book about herself when she first started deciding to pick up the paintbrush. She says, "My first intention was just practice. I painted and it was bad. I painted again, still bad. I Googled, but I didn't find anything that my heart was craving. I threw the brush on the floor and said to myself, stop looking for someone to teach you. Rebecca, you have permission to create." And I think that's kind of the point, is no one's saying that whatever you try to do, whether it's writing or painting or drawing or baking something new that you've never baked before, will be perfect, or that it will turn out and look like a masterpiece. Maybe it'll look like a drawing that your child could have done at 6, or maybe the baked good will be burnt. Actually, it doesn't matter. I mean, it does matter. Of course, we want to get better, but that's the point, is we have to work on it to get better, to have results that look like someone that's practiced. So the point is, I would encourage you to practice and don't be so hard on yourself. The intent isn't even the end result. It's the act of doing. It's the act of using your hands and your mind at the same time, and to get in that flow, that state of being open to creativity and open to our imaginations and our mind allowing us to go somewhere that we often on a regular day don't allow it to go because we're stuck in meetings and schedules and making dinner and the busyness of what we allow in our lives. So here are 2 simple practices that you can add to your day and your week to start, turning on that creativity and imagination. The first is pull out your schedule, whether you use a paper schedule or an online schedule, and look at it. And then be honest with yourself and say, how can I add in and where can I add in an extra 15 minutes where I'm going to not be productive in a traditional way? So I'm not going to do work. I'm not going to do something for someone else, like make my kids dinner. I am going to do something that's outside of my comfort zone, and start penciling in time for that. It could be at the end of your lunch when you typically take lunch. It could be in the morning before everyone's up. It could be after dinner. And if you have children, incorporate them into the practice or the process. That's no problem, as long as you allow yourself to get creative, separate from what they're doing. So if they're so little that you have to have your hands beside them or on what they're doing, then that time maybe doesn't count as much. But if they're a little older and they can independently work on an activity or craft or making while you do, then you can definitely tie them in. But add in the time. And I would challenge you, if you've had a desire to try painting or drawing or writing, then spend that creative time doing that. But I would also say, if it's something that comes easier to you, do that, keep working on it. But on occasion, try something that stretches you, something you've never done before or experimented with. And if I'm going to be honest, if you can add in on occasion something that takes you back to childhood, that takes you back to think, oh, this is so silly, I can't do this, I'm embarrassing myself. So for instance, I'm talking about, you know what, don't just paint with a paintbrush or a watercolor pen. Maybe pull out the finger paints or the bubbles. And yes, get your hands messy and make a mess of an old shirt. But I think sometimes we put too many constraints on our adult selves and we say, oh, I can't do that. I'm too big for that. I'm too old. I'm too mature. Well, I would challenge you that if we are willing to experiment and get a little messy, oh my gosh, you're going to be so surprised at how much fun you have and how much you let loose and the joy that is in those moments. So that's the first thing. The second thing I would say is get together with your friends, maybe once a month or even once every 2 months, and have a creativity or a craft night. Everybody brings their own thing to work on, or you can, if it's going to be like painting on paper, somebody can always get some really nice larger sheets of paper and then, enough paintbrushes and pen or paints that everybody could use. So obviously you could do it where it's the same group activity. But just do something creative with other people on occasion. Or there's even all these places nowadays where you go and paint the wood signs, or there's the air plant bars. But all of those things are being creative because you're deciding what you want to paint and how you're going to paint it. You're picking the colors or the stains. Or like the plant bar, you're picking what you're putting in that little vignette or that terrarium or whatever they're giving you, the glass bowl or jar or open air container. So that's the other thing I'd encourage. But I promise you, if you just schedule in a little creativity and time to use your imagination, to think about things you don't usually allow yourself to think about, and imagine the future you want. Imagine the wildest dreams that could ever come possible for you. Write them down. Don't let yourself be stopped by thinking, oh, these are silly. Oh, I could never do this. I could never make that much money. I could never have a business that allowed me to travel the world. Stop stopping yourself before you even allow yourself to really imagine it and envision it for your future. Because we have to imagine and envision it, this future that we want, in order to step towards it. So that's it. I just want to leave you with that today and tell you, get out there, be creative, get messy, and have some fun. And I'll just leave you with these words by Albert Einstein, who says, logic will get you from A to B. Imagination will take you everywhere. And that's it, isn't it, folks? We want to use our imaginations so that we can dream up new things and solve problems that haven't been solved yet, and so that we can see the wonder in the world and all around us. So here's to more wonder and imagination in our lives. I think we do need to know what we want in order to define life on our terms, and we have to be willing to break the past scripts so that we can move into better and more beautiful and amazing things. And if you're ready to go after your dreams and define life on your terms, head on over to KristinFitch.com and download the free No Limits workbook to help you look at different ideas in front of you and how you might create, scale, and monetize those ideas, so you can start going after your dreams today. And if you enjoyed the show, we'd love it if you'd subscribe and leave us a review and rating on Apple Podcast or wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you have ideas for the show or guests that you'd like to recommend, I'd love to hear from you. So DM me on Instagram at Kristin Fitch, or you can email me from the website. Thanks so much. And thanks again for listening in. Until next time, have a great week.